To help us sort through all of it, we want to bring in our most all-star panel, CBSN political contributors Lynda Tran and Kevin Sheridan. Lynda is a Democratic strategist, Kevin a Republican strategist, and then we have our very own Steve Chaggaris, CBS News senior political editor. Welcome to you all. Good morning. A good election day morning
it's
to
here.
You all. Opening thoughts then, and Steve, I want to start with you. You will be looking for what at what today?
Oh, wow. Where do we begin? So turnout, right? Who do Clinton and Trump turn out? Hillary Clinton is concerned about some groups not turning out in the same numbers as they did in 2008, 2012. Young voters, African-American voters, we're going to be watching to see how that turnout is for her. And for Donald Trump, is he going to turn out this white working class group of people that he says silent majority in larger numbers than anybody, I think, thinks is going to happen? And will he be able to cause some trouble in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania for Hillary Clinton and really challenge her on the electoral map? We'll see.
Lynda, the Clinton campaign in particular has put in a lot of grassroots groundwork in advance of November 8th, not just in terms of early voting, but in terms of voter mobilization and getting out the vote, getting people's names in their database. Tell us a little bit more about the organization level on the Democratic side.
Well, I mean, I think the numbers really say it all. So when you break it down in terms of the left versus the right and take into account all of the infrastructure on either side, the Clinton camp has 5 times more staff. They have 2.5 times more offices out there. And that is all designed not only to mobilize the folks that they have hired to organize in communities, but also they're very invested in this notion of volunteer recruitment and building networks of people, neighbors talking to neighbors. It's a continuation of some of the strategy from Obama times.
I know, Kevin, you'll be looking today in part at the candidates themselves. Right. Then using perhaps yesterday on the stump, the last day that we saw from both, what does it suggest about where these two campaigns are, where these two candidates are, and really what are you looking for from both of them today?
Well, I think Hillary Clinton enters today thinking she's going to win. She's very confident. She was actually looking to turn the page to November 9th, that she's going to look to unite the country. She's reading all the polls. All the predictors are saying that she's going to win. And I don't think she has any doubt that that's going to happen tonight. If that does not happen, we are going to see a shock to this country we have never seen before, because nobody thinks right now, nobody that's in the in the pundit class believes that Donald Trump can actually pull this out. I think he still does have a shot. I do think that it's important to look at what the candidates do today, how they conduct themselves. There will always be controversies in important states and urban areas, and some polling station there will be something that happens. Does Donald Trump try to exploit that? Does his supporters get riled up about? Do they get riled up about that online, and do they try to cause a ruckus on this? And then, it comes down to urban versus rural turnout. And we'll see whether or not those urban areas are turning out in the numbers they need to turn out to put Hillary Clinton across the finish line. And the suburban vote, usually a swing vote, is kind of up in the air this year, because we don't know how many people will just stay home and won't vote for Donald Trump, and how many she's able to flip to her side. Those are normally reliable Republican voters, and we'll just have to see what the ultimate turnout is.
Kevin, just to follow up on that, what do you expect from Donald Trump if, in fact, he does not win?
I hope Donald Trump takes the opportunity to attempt to calm his very fervent base and turn the page to support if he does not win, support the next president of the United States. That's a big if with Donald Trump. As we all know, he's a wild card. He may try to play some some dramatic game on election night or the next day. I hope that doesn't happen. For the sake of the country, I hope that everybody wants to sing from the same page of a unity message, and that may be too much to ask right now in this
highly unlikely
2016. But let's hope that that's where we get to tonight.
Donald Trump, we do expect to see him cast his vote today, PS 59, actually here in Manhattan. Of course, we'll take a look at it live as he does go to cast that vote. I wanted to play some sound from Donald Trump earlier today, discussing regrets he might have about the campaign now drawn to a close.
There's always regrets if you could go back and change things, but you can't. So you just have to learn from. Sure, there are things that I would have done differently, but you have to just go forward.
Sure.
You do want to learn, but there's nothing you can do. I'm very proud of my children. I mean, I'm just looking at them right now as an example, your show. But I'm very proud because Don and Eric and Ivanka, and to a lesser extent because she just got out of school, out of college, but Tiffany, who's also been so terrific. I mean, They worked so hard.
Yep.
They were
Everybody
all over
did.
the place. As
Absolutely.
you know, they've done your show many times. But
They have indeed.
They worked
Mr.
so
Trump,
hard.
we only have a few final seconds with you. We may not hear from you the balance of the day. What would you like to say to the people of America right now? Final message.
That we have a great, great country. We have tremendous potential. Definitely go out and vote.
Maybe the most optimistic we've ever heard Donald Trump right there in those last 5 seconds, Steve. And to Lynda's earlier point, it's hard to think if they are willing, if Donald Trump as a candidate is willing to discuss the idea of regret, that they won't look back on the lack of a ground game in the states where they could have made a difference when you're talking about the percentages that we are.
I even just want to talk about the bigger picture on that. This was really an opportunity for a Republican to win this race. I mean, Hillary Clinton is an unpopular candidate, as is Donald Trump. But Trump had opportunities after becoming the nominee to pivot to being a more appealing candidate and went in a different direction. And I think if anybody looks back and says, did he have an opportunity to win this thing? I think he absolutely had an opportunity to win this thing. He had a message that resonated with a lot of Republicans, as we saw in the primary, and could have resonated with the country in the sense that he was a change agent and people want change in this country. But he was unable to get out of his own way. He was unable to get out of the way of his own controversies. He kept stepping into these messes, and it just escalated to a point where people were just so fed up with both of these candidates that I think a lot of people are going into this election just saying, you know what, who's the lesser of the two evils? And we'll find out tonight what voters are going to say. But I think he had an opportunity to actually really win this thing pretty easily. And I think he just fumbled it over the last 6 months.
What about that? We've been talking a lot about the Hispanic vote, which has proven potentially could prove to be Hillary Clinton's firewall in states like Nevada and Florida, Lynda. If you're talking about the road ahead for Republicans, what would be your advice in terms of rebuilding those bridges to that community in specific?
Well, you're absolutely right. So Hillary Clinton's strategy basically has to be to kind of hold even on the Obama coalition, especially among African-American voters. She doesn't have to meet the bar that he set. She just needs to hold it within a certain margin. But she's already, as early reports are telling us, overperforming among Latino voters. And in Florida in particular, you would expect maybe around 2/3 of those folks to cast their ballots today. So the question is this a Hillary Clinton coalition, a new group and a new base for her, especially if she ends up being elected and working to be reelected, or is it just that there was this moment? Some of the reports that we've heard are people are less voting for her and more voting against him. Mm-hmm. And so she's going to have to connect with them on the issues. She has said that comprehensive immigration reform is on her list of priorities for the first 100 days. And if she can deliver, I think she has a lot of potential to build something that's really powerful, not only for her, but for the Democratic Party for years to come.
I think whoever wins tonight has a task that is almost impossible. This is a deeply divided country. It's a country it's a president who's going to face a Congress who's not going to want to work with them, whether it's Trump or Clinton. Congress is not going to necessarily want to work with this person. And I just think it's a setup for really a one-term presidency. I mean, it's going to be a hard haul for whoever wins this, mainly because...
I think there are members of Congress who do want to get things done. I think Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, does want to get things done. And if she comes to the White House with an agenda that seeks bipartisanship and seeks to get things done rather than play partisan games with things like immigration, like everybody has done for the last 10 years, she could get something
But here's
done.
where I disagree, only because we've seen this recently, is that the majority on both sides is going to be razor's edge, whether the Democrats win the Senate or not, and what happens in the House. It's going to be a very thin majority, and we've got a midterm in 2 years in which many members of the Senate and all of the House is going to be looking to re-election, and that's going to be more important than working with whoever's in the White House.
But both sides of the aisle really need to take a very clear message from the electorate this cycle. They are sick and tired of Washington, D.C. not getting anything done, not pushing anything through because of the partisan gridlock. So no matter who ends up in the Oval Office,
it's been going on for a few years, and we saw what happened with this election.
Good thing about this, we have all day to discuss it. And so, Steve...
we'll be back, John.
All day to dash people's hope about
here all day.
Cooperation.
Strong opening effort, though. We thank you. We'll see you very soon.